I don't want. You know,
And Jeff. You know, David was right.
It's two till there.
Shoot, was that?
It's 7 o'clock. My
Yep.
mind watching the computer. What do we do?
7 o'clock.
Okay. Calling to order the Benton City Council meeting of March 5th, 2024. We'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And can we get Pat Hamilton to lead us?
I was gonna suggest that too.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have roll call.
Councilwoman Wadsworth.
Here.
Councilman Sandretto.
still here.
Councilman Reed.
Here.
Councilwoman Alcazar.
I was gonna say still here, but he already said it. But yeah, I'm still here too.
Councilman Valencia.
Here.
Okay. Any comments on the consent agenda?
That's good for me.
I move to approve the March 5th, 2024 consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia.
Reed, aye.
Alcazar, I.
Motion passes. Okay, we have Jose here. We have two new city workers to introduce. If Jose can introduce them.
So, Dale, you want to come up here and introduce yourself?
Good evening, my name is Fidel Valencia. And I'll be a maintenance utility worker. I was formerly employed at CBC. Really love the job, but it was just in the evenings. So I'm looking for a daytime job just to spend more time with my family and be able to come to sports games with them.
Okay.
Before that, I owned a business in building maintenance, so.
Awesome. Any questions? Well, we welcome you to Benton City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really
It's
look
good to
forward to
have
being
you.
part of the community.
Okay, thank you. And you got a good boss too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you guys.
We have a works employee.
Hello, my name is Andres Rubio. I'm gonna be a utility maintenance worker also. And prior to this, I was working at a company here in Benton City at Central Washington Asphalt. And a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Toppenish, moved over here to West Pasco about 6 years ago. And I also served part-time in the military. I'm about to get out here soon, so yeah, it's a little bit about myself, and I'm looking forward to working here.
Okay,
Welcome.
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. Be nice to Jose.
Yeah. I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, do we need to? It says I'm approved the confirmation of,
Yeah,
do they want to be here for that?
that's up to them.
I was gonna say.
You guys want to see a vote?
Do you want to see us vote? Keep you or not? No, I mean, we want to make sure we keep you, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
I move to approve the confirmation of Fidel Valencia, maintenance utility worker 1, and confirmation of Andres Rubio, maintenance utility worker 1.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, aye.
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia.
Reed, aye.
Alcazar, I.
Sergio, you can let them know now.
Don't tell them we kept them.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Visitor comments. Do we have any visitors here that would like to make a comment? Okay. Dave,
That would be, yeah, he has something he wanted to bring up.
did you want to make a comment or?
Yes.
Okay, we want
You're
to
a
step up
visitor,
here
that
and
would be you.
tell us who you are and you have 3 minutes.
We're timing him, right?
You're gonna time him.
Okay, because he's,
We are leaping ahead in a few days. My name's Pat Hamilton. I've lived here for over 25 years. I retired from Energy Northwest Nuclear Security. And I'd like to make a proposal that through grants or whatever, that the city helps put up a repeater for ham and GMRS radios. We know that the phone system is sketchy at times. AT&T went down, but we need emergency communications with the city and the people in the city. And I think this would help.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
you still got 2 minutes.
Uh,
Sorry, sit down.
Spring in ahead on Sunday.
Okay, yeah, any other visitors? Okay, reports. Staff reports, code enforcement had a family emergency tonight, could not make it. Council member meeting reports.
The only one I have is I attended the Good Roads Association on behalf of the city. Had a presentation by WashDOT. So the big news is that pretty much every road in the Tri-Cities is going to have some sort of construction on it this summer. They are painting the Blue Bridge, so it's down to 1 lane of traffic each direction. Over the summer, they're gonna do one side and then move over. The Road 100 exit, they got work there as well. They're doing patching and preservation. They've been shutting down off and on ramps throughout the Tri-Cities, so be aware of that in your travels. Interstate 82 should be back open now up by Toppenish. They had to close that into traffic due to a collapse of a irrigation line that ran underneath the freeway. And if you're taking travel this summer and wanting to use the Vantage Bridge, be aware it's going to be down to 1 lane of travel as well.
Unless
as
it's
they-
holiday weekends.
unless it's holiday weekends, because you guys aren't working.
No, it's part of the agreement that they will not shut down that bridge down to 1 lane on any holiday weekends.
Well, I don't know if they don't have the bridge deck on, they can do that, but okay. So that's going on throughout the summer in our South Central region.
Bring the ferry boats back.
And I would encourage folks to talk to your legislators at any given time. As well as your state representatives about pushing more funding towards preservation. At this point, about 1 nickel of the overall budget goes to preservation. That's fixing bridges like the Benton City Bridge or putting patches in for potholes or resurfacing streets, etc. The bulk of the monies that the state has go to new projects or things like the Snoqualmie Pass bonds. So be aware of that. And other than that, that's my only good roads report.
I just wanted to follow up the tire drive that happens every single year in West Richland at the Benton County Mosquito Control is going to be in April. We don't quite have a date yet, but obviously it's very important. It's one way to dispose of tires. So as soon as the date gets locked down, I will let you guys and everybody know, because I think it's a great thing to do.
Bill, I'm always last. Bill, do you have anything?
I do not. It's been business as usual. Nothing new to report.
Then I'll go. I attended the Coyote Irrigation District meeting. They have not yet decided when the water is going to be turned on. There were a few other things that they looked at for the lift station number 4. There was some discussion about that, but other than that, nothing earth shaking yet.
I went to the revitalization committee meeting. On the 23rd of this month, we're gonna do highway cleanup on Highway 225, starting at 9 AM. Accumulating out at the Trailhead. Brian, that's the head of WASDOT in Yakima, just exchanged had exchange with him. He has agreed to send one of their staff members or one of the engineers down here to meet with us here in Benton City to discuss 9th Street and some of the truck traffic and that. And I don't know what will come of that, but we're trying to get a discussion started to see if we can move things along. On Earth Day in April, Earth Day is in April, we're gonna have a citywide cleanup. You know, the disc golf area, the boat basin, the trails and that. We're gonna organize a community cleanup day, a community cleanup event for that day. And that is all that I have. Engineering report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. One second, let me share my screen here. I'd like to provide a brief update on grants. If you recall, the last council meeting, the task order was approved for Kana to work on some grants and do some grant investigation for the city. With that, there was a TIB Complete Streets grant application, not an application per se, but a consideration for early consideration, and it was due March 1st, and we were able to submit that for some flashing beacons, $179,000 for 4 pedestrian crossings, 2 on 7th, where we have our path that crosses, 1 over on 14th, and 1 on Hazel and a Horn for school crossings. So we're able to get that application in. We also have an application due on the 7th, the day after tomorrow, for WCIA, which is insurance, the Washington Coalition of Insurance Agencies, I believe is what it's referred to as. We're looking at applying for 2 solar light poles over at Boat Launch Park. So that will be about $23,000 there. We are discussing with Lynn. He had mentioned that we can assist, the city can assist with about $5,000. Not a requirement for a match, but it is favorable for the grant to have that match with us. So that application is complete and ready, and it will be submitted day after tomorrow. Actually, it'll be submitted tomorrow. There's also the athletic facility grant, which we are continuing to move forward. You'll see a resolution tonight to authorize Mayor Benton to sign off on all the paperwork. Everything has been completed. I have a meeting with Megan Hoke, our grant writer, just to verify that she has gotten everything done on her end. But just wrapped up the memorandum of understanding with property owners, and all the other information has been submitted to Megan for grant submission on the 13th. Continuing on, the Department of Commerce, that is the grant application for modifying the use of the funds for City Hall over to the maintenance shop. And I've got all that information together as well, and hope to be getting a resolution to the council at the next council meeting to submit that change. I'll go over some of the details on that as well. Upcoming grants available. There is a POB tourism grant, and I will kind of hand those out for your reference. Apologize, I didn't have these in advance for the packet, but there's one for each of you to go through. Those are just some small grants that don't really affect facilities or maintenance. It's more programs or things that can be done to attract tourism to an area. So I do plan to discuss with city staff as to which grants, if any, they're interested in pursuing. There are lots of different options there. If you as the council have a chance to review that and have any recommendations, I would appreciate your feedback on if there's any that you see worth pursuing. But a lot of them, like I said, are programs. I'm not real involved in tourism type programs or anything, but definitely willing to help out if the city determines there's a need there that we can apply for.
Well,
without reviewing it and understanding. Something that I think we need to try to do in reference to tourism is wayfinding signs
Okay,
and see if we can find a grant for that somewhere. I think that would be behoove us as far as taking advantage of our wineries and other attractions like the Uranus Monument thing and parks and such.
okay. So to clarify, you're looking at just additional signage throughout the city, pointing to landmarks, monuments,
Have you ever seen the
tourist,
wayfinding signs?
tourist attractions.
They're
Um,
essentially little groups of signs that say this way for 3 miles for this winery and that way for this monument and this way for this park and
I have seen those. I have seen
Yeah.
those. Okay, that sounds good. I'll definitely look into that and see if one of these is an eligible option for that. Another thing I'd like to discuss is RCO. So RCO has a large group of grants coming available. They're all due around May 1st. And all of them are listed as a 50% match. However, because of Benton City's income status, we qualify for a 30% match. It is my thought that we can pursue some of these, but I'm not sure where the city sits in being able to support any matching funds. I have another spreadsheet I want to provide for you. Gonna need your glasses on this one. I apologize. A lot of information I'm trying to share. Still one. But if you'll see kind of as you get these, there's 4 in the middle here that have pink highlighted. Those are all the ones that 50% match, and all of them that the city is eligible for. Knowing as I've attended budget meetings, you know, I have a good idea where the city stands, but I also understand the priorities that council has placed forward. I would recommend that we pursue at least one, if not 2 of these. The 2 that I think would be in the best interest would be the first one, the Aquatic Lands Enhancement Account, which is a 30% match, but a development of Riverfront Park would qualify under that grant. The other one that I think would be of the best interest would be the WWRP Recreation, which is also a 30% match. And the splash pad, which the city has noted as a priority, would qualify for that one. So you can see that one, you can apply for a $500,000 development. 30% of that would be roughly $150,000 if we applied for the full amount. I haven't put any numbers together yet on what we think a splash pad would be, but just, you know, again, if we look at full amount of 500, the city would need to come up with 150 to support that. If we try to apply for both of these grants, then they're both at 500, then the city would need to come up with $300,000 to be able to support upgrades to both facilities. Good news is these grants are recurring, so they'll be back if we don't apply for both of them or all of them now. Bad news is they're every 2 years. So if we wait, it is another 2 years until we can look at moving forward. Any thoughts, comments regarding pursuing both of these, all of them, none of them?
If we're awarded the grant, we still have the option of, we can't come up with the money to turn it down, do we not?
Yes, but it does not shine
Right.
nicely on us.
Right.
If we
It
turn
makes
down
it
a grant, that's
Harder probably in the future to go
Right.
after grants.
correct. And RCO is a good source for park grants. It's the best that we have out there. So I don't think it's a bridge that we would want to tarnish or
Okay.
burn.
I'll give you 2 pieces to this. A, grants are good, right? So we should go after everyone we can. But B, knowing the current status of the city and trying to get everybody and everything back in jiving. I don't know that it's the time to go after that large of sum. And you know, I personally, I could support maybe going after one. I don't know about both, though. That's my feedback for you.
Understood.
I think I agree with David. I would be more inclined to go for the splash pad as opposed to the riverfront park. Because it gets hot here in the summer and there is a big demand for that.
And it's something that's been promised to the community for
Ever and ever.
forever. Yeah, I was gonna say it's been forever.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of I'm on board if we had to pick one. I think that would be something to finally follow through to the citizens.
All right, well, I will continue to move forward on the, any other comment?
Bill? Any feedback?
I'm assuming he concurs.
I concur, sorry.
I will move forward then on the, glasses on the WWRP Recreation Grant. It's due May 1st, for the splash pad. So we'll start putting that information together and provide updates as we go. Thank you guys for your feedback on that.
Thank you for all your
Mhm.
time that you've spent on it.
You bet. You bet. There are more grants that we will be working on as well. You can see here, we've got some WashDOT grants coming up, a pedestrian bicyclist and safe routes to schools. Those are no match. So we will pursue those. Raise grant, we missed this year's cutoff, but we will look at next year. It is a recurring grant, federal grant. And then TIB always has their annual maintenance grants coming up mid-August that we will be pursuing as well. Kind of discussed this already, reviewing grant application requirements, eligibility. I've done that. And priorities to splash pad, that's clear. That's what we'll work on. I'm not sure. I will discuss with Mayor Benton on if you want to involve Calix development, the grant writer you guys have on staff for that, to do the grant writing and I do the research, or you just handle it. But
I know what the council's feelings are, and it's gonna be important, but my preference would be for a candidate to work on it.
Okay.
I don't know what the other feelings are. Are there any feelings different?
I just want to make sure, since we are paying for Megan, is that we're using her to her full potential or what we're paying.
We'll still be using Megan.
Okay.
Okay.
I would recommend that you use her to write the grant.
Okay.
She's not local, so even this last
Would you-
athletic facility grant,
Did she write this grant, the splash pad?
that she write the application, but I'm gonna end up doing all of the backup documentation
okay,
and the footwork
okay,
for it.
okay.
That's what we've done with the athletic facility grant. That's what we've done with the parks maintenance grant. So I think she's good at writing grants.
That's her
Okay.
job.
She's good at writing
Okay.
narratives. So
Okay,
let's use her strength and I can be the
we'll do that.
footwork guy down here.
Put some boots on the ground.
Yes, yes. All right, well, that's everything on grants. There was one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention. And jump back up to the Department of Commerce grant that we talked about. So if you recall, we have about $300,000 with the Department of Commerce to do that. We'll be requesting a change for from City Hall to the maintenance shop. And one more document I want to share with you guys. Apologize, I got all these done yesterday, so they did not make the packet. But this shows kind of two options as I've met with city staff on what they would like to try to accomplish with that grant, the $300,000. Option one is everything completed, kind of do everything that the maintenance would like. And that's a larger building. That's a 50 by 100 shop building. That is a full concrete slab under the building, 6 overhead doors, full electrical and HVAC, interior wall insulation and plumbing. And that is to insulate 2 bays of that building so that it is temperature controlled for your water trucks, your Vector trucks, so they don't freeze. And then doing a remodel of the maintenance shop to convert the back of it to a break room, a temperature controlled break room. To do all of that, brings us over the 299,000 by $137,000. If we scale down the building a little bit, we should be able to get a good sized facility. It would not include, unfortunately, a concrete slab under the entire building and enclosed bays for the entire building. So 4 of the bays would just be open where maintenance trucks would be parked. 2 would be completely closed, insulated, temperature controlled, again, for your trucks that need heat during the winter. There was some requests to run plumbing to the building for future, possible future use. Does not include that. And scaling down some of the work that we would do as a CANA and having some of the city staff assist with that. If we go that route, which is your option 2, your economized value option, then I believe that we can get a maintenance building there and the break room remodel completed. Based on the quotes I've received, I've got quotes from 2 separate contractors on the break room remodel, 3 quotes on a building. And then using numbers that I've obtained for concrete, insulation, cost per square foot, those are the other calculations that are there. So it's my thought that we pursue option 2, and then we can look at things like a concrete slab on the floor, adding doors. Those can be done at a later time if funding allows, but at least gets us a building to house everything and gets a break room that's temperature controlled for the staff so they have a place to take their breaks. Any thoughts, comments, questions on that? This would be for that grant. I'll be getting a resolution for the next council meeting to submit the change and have all that documentation prepared at that time. Another option is to scratch one of them and just do one of the 2. We could do full-size maintenance shop that gets everything that maintenance would like, but wouldn't be able to do the break room remodel then.
I like option 2 because you can always come back later when we do have more funds available. But it gets us what we need and what maintenance needs.
Mhm.
So everybody likes option 2, but the drawback is that when you do option 2, chances that you actually go back and do the other piece, probably not gonna happen. So I guess the question really is what is the necessity and the need? I mean, do we need 6 heated bays?
No, it does not include 6. Neither option includes 6 heated bays. Both options include 2 heated bays. The other 4 bays are just enclosed. So that comes with the garage doors and then a full concrete slab for the entire building. Where option 2 is just gravel for the 4 extra bays and not fully enclosed. It'd be fenced in. It's still in the fenced treatment plant area, but it's not fully enclosed. So your dump trucks, some of the other vehicles that are just sitting outside, they'll be in a bay, but again, they'll be exposed to temperatures.
But 2 bays would be heated, so
2
they
bays
could
would still
put
be heated.
certain rigs in it.
Yes, which was determined as a priority. Need to be able to.
I mean, obviously, I like 1 because it's the whole package, but with our finances and grants, I mean, obviously 2 is better than nothing. I think it's a great start, and I think, I'm with David. I'd like to get it all done, but I think this is a great start, and we can always go back and if it turns to be necessary is to do some slab work and put some garage doors in. So I think I'm good with 2. I think it's a good start. Sorry, David.
No, I'm just throwing out both sides of the point.
I see your side, and I'm usually one that's let's get it done the right way and get it all done at once. But I also know that with a grant, and if we don't have the other fundings to make up where we're short, I think it's just going to make it really hard for us.
Bill, you looked into this with the staff. What are your comments?
I'm kind of in agreement. I'd like to see all or nothing, but I get it if we can't do all. I'd recommend choice 2.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And I think this is gonna go to a
You
great
see it
option.
from it, or-
No, no, in
Versus
fact, I
fixing
think
it.
phase two is, it
Okay,
makes a lot more sense, you know, in terms of funding. and
And actually, you know, really right now, we're trying to make sure that the funds can be switched over to this project.
mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you guys come up with some extra money in the meantime, then we can do the full package.
You never
Yeah.
know, we might win the lotto.
Mhm.
Or another grant could pop up.
As long as all the taxes included.
Yeah, the tax is included. And obviously, if we can get more out of that money, I'll get as much as we can out of it. I mean,
Wrote in behind the page.
there we go. There we go. But I will continue down that road. And so you'll see a resolution at next council meeting to
Okay,
approve Mayor Burton to
thank you,
authorize all that paperwork to request that change.
thank you,
And that's all I have. Any other questions or comments?
I appreciate your
thank you for your work.
time, yeah.
No, thank you guys.
Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
George, we do not have you on the agenda. Do you have any comments?
I'll save those for 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. We have a guest here from Benton Franklin Council of Government for a quick presentation. This is Miss Holt, and it looks like this is pretty much what you went over last week.
You are getting a repeat performance. That's a little bit of an update for the council. Yes, I'm Michelle Holt. I'm the executive director at the Benton Franklin Council of Governments. My last report to the council was actually the beginning of 2022. So it's been 2 years since you've had an update from me, and the first time I've actually visited your council in person. And I must say, as a small town girl myself, sitting in your council meeting feels very comfortable at home. I grew up in a town of 1,000 people in a county of 2,500 people. So our council meetings felt a lot like this. So the Council of Governments, we were actually established in 1966. It's a voluntary association of the units of government in Benton and Franklin counties for the purpose of a forum for improved communication, multi-jurisdictional decision-making, regional planning, and to be a lead agency, have that capacity on behalf of multiple jurisdictions for projects. We have multiple designations that we hold on behalf of our local governments. We are by RCW, a council of governments. We are a regional planning commission as well. We are the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Transportation Management Area under the Federal Highways and Federal Transit and Federal Highways. For WashDOT, we are your regional transportation planning organization. And under the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, we are also the Economic Development District for those two counties. Our focus area is really transportation, economic development. And of course, the marriage of those two is land use planning. So that is our general work area. And then also the ability to help our jurisdictions with multi-jurisdictional programs. There are over 500 councils of governments in the country. And of the 3,900 city councils that exist in the US, 35,000 of them are members of a council of governments. So for highlights for 2022 and 2023, I don't have the ability to change your slides, but I think you guys have. Oh, perfect. And one more. Oh, thank you. Okay, so highlights for the last 2 years since you've had an update from us. We did adopt a new interlocal agreement, bylaws, and committee policies with all of our councils last year. We had gone through some changes internally that required that update in order to make sure that all of those roles that we play on your behalf are actually clearly defined in those organizational documents. So thank you for approving those and helping us with that. In 2023, we actually we achieved a reserve fund of $450,000. We were able to sell some real and personal property that the council had. That's noteworthy for us because when I came to the council in 2021, our reserve account had $21,000 in it. That wasn't enough money to cover 2 months of operations, let alone any significant issue. So for us to have been able to work through that process to access that property and put money in the reserve is a very comforting place for me as the director to be these days. Under the MPO, we have obligated $12.724 million to local transportation projects in the last 2 years through our competitive granting program. We secured a $600,000 grant from the EPA to do brownfield assessments for properties in Benton and Franklin counties to allow us to cover those costs. We have a contracted assessment firm that handles all of that work for us at no cost. So in the last 2 years, we've been able to do phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments, regulated building materials surveys, or reuse planning. It's either site or area wide for 12 locations in Benton and Franklin counties. We received a $400,000 grant from Benton and Franklin counties, split between the two of them, to support our economic resiliency planning efforts. That's allowed us to keep a full-time economic development staffer working on behalf of our communities. The Council of Government since 1986 had operated revolving loan funds for small businesses, and the board opted at the end of 2022, to begin phasing out those revolving loan fund programs. Although they've been very beneficial to support many small businesses, the reality is to try and administer those programs at low interest rates and low costs ultimately meant that there was not much funding to actually administer those programs, and they were very staff and time intensive. That and their higher risk loan portfolios. So when you have some losses, it ended up that we were just not running an effective program. One change that happened was the oldest revolving loan program we had was eligible to be defederalized by the government. So it's a base fund of $847,000 has been defederalized, so we are not required to report or be beholden to the Economic Development Administration for those funds. We can use them for other economic development purposes. They do not have to be a revolving loan anymore. So we've gone through the process to make that happen, and now our organization will have to make some decisions about how would we like to leverage those funds to support economic development? So those conversations will be happening going forward. We've provided 75 technical assistance services and 70 modeling and mapping services on behalf of our jurisdictions upon their request. And we've facilitated 50 congressional connection meetings. So on a regular basis, we host meetings between staff members of our jurisdictions and the staff of our federal delegations to help encourage those conversations about projects, funding, and other opportunities. Now, next slide, please. So this is my favorite slide to present because this is what I call the "what have you done for me lately" slide. So specific to Benton City, for transportation planning and funding, transportation projects from 2019 to 2023, Benton City has received $616,179 to support local transportation projects. $184,889 was awarded for pedestrian crossings and the River Park Trail project specifically. Our staff came and participated in your sub-area plan meeting. We've done some traffic analysis prior to the council's moratorium lifting as well, to help provide you some important data for making those decisions. And of course, your staff participate in our transportation planning advisory. For economic development, we support when we can with letters of support to help your applications for funding. In 2022 and 2023, that had to do with congressional directed spending applications for Senators Murray, Cantwell, and Newhouse's office for the Rails to Trails Bridge project specifically. The Brownfields Assessment Program I mentioned is eligible to any property publicly or privately owned in Benton or Franklin County. So if there's a property that's assisted brownfield, meaning you think it may have some level of contamination based on its age or past use, that program can be applied to cover that assessment. But the bottom line is that the total funding provided by all of our 13 member jurisdictions is just over $260,000 to operate our agency. Benton City's portion of that is 0.73% or $1,898. So when you look at a direct return on investment, not taking into consideration just other services and things we provide, a 5-year average, that's $69,000 in funds back to Benton City in return for every dollar that you invest in our organization to work on your behalf. So I love being able to share those kinds of numbers. So next slide. Looking forward to what's happening with our organization in 2024. For transportation, we are just starting a regional bicycle plan. That plan is to set a vision for enhancing bicycle opportunities for all residents in the region. The process will map a regional bicycle network, identify barriers and strategies to address those barriers, and to help our jurisdictions apply for funding resources to support their infrastructure upgrades. So I know that you were just speaking with your engineering firm about potential applications. This kind of planning is a great asset for you to be able to point back to and say, in the regional scope, this is a meaningful and important project, and it's been identified by a third party. So not just Benton City saying it's important, but your Council of Governments bicycle plan says your plan is important. Second, every 2 years, we do a regional traffic count program. So we have traffic counts done at 719 locations across the region. This is actually the most robust traffic count program in the entire state. We have talked to our jurisdictions about do they still want this program? Is it too much? And the feedback we get is absolutely not. We use this data. We use it to update our regional transportation model, as well as provide that data to the jurisdictions directly for their transportation planning. So in the rural communities, those counts will be taking place between August and October. So when you start to see the little rubber hoses across the streets, you know we're doing counts. And Benton City has 6 specific count locations. Another change that happened in 2023, speaking of your conversations with WashDOT about truck traffic. Freight traffic around the region has been a concern and an issue for everyone, especially given the amount of industrial growth that we're seeing. So in 2023, we worked with our modeling agency to source freight waybill data and other freight specific data to make our model more robust in its projection of impacts for freight planning. We'll also be taking on, in fact, next slide. Yep, that's the one, regional system analysis with WashDOT. So in partnership, we'll be conducting a system-wide analysis of the regional transportation system from the arterial streets to the state system to specifically identify the current choke points within the system and potential next steps to address those region-wide. And in our planning, we want to use that data combined with the updated freight modeling in order to really look at a freight transportation plan going forward. Next slide. The COG received a Safe Streets and Roads for All federal grant of $320,000. This is a planning and demonstration grant as opposed to the funding that an individual jurisdiction might apply for actual implementation or infrastructure. We're using that for two planning products. The first one is a Safe Routes to School Action Plan, which again would partner with any applications you might do to use safe routes to school funding for implementing strategies. What our plan will do is the COG staff is working with the school districts and our local jurisdiction to develop the safe routes around the schools and map those to improve safety, encourage active transportation, and also to have an action plan for areas where improvements could be made. The second plan that goes along with that grant is a regional comprehensive safety action plan. This will improve roadway safety throughout the region to plan and assess current conditions, develop holistic strategies for preventing roadway fatalities and serious injuries across the region. So again, we hope that both of those planning tools will help our jurisdictions as they look to make improvements in infrastructure or secure funding. Next slide. Under the economic development side of the house, we've been co-facilitating the Benton Franklin Broadband Action Team for the last year. They have recently split into two subcommittees, one focusing on infrastructure, the other focusing on digital equity. So the infrastructure subcommittee is, of course, watching closely what's happening with the Washington Broadband Equity, Accessibility, and Deployment, or BEAD, funding program. Washington State received $1.2 billion in funding to extend internet access and internet infrastructure to unserved and underserved households within the counties. Benton County itself is very well served. When you look at the data and metrics, there were only about 2,500 homes who didn't meet the threshold of unserved. Underserved is another question. Are you talking about wireless access or wired fiber? That's a whole other question. But we're waiting for the state to decide how they are going to open up that funding and application process. So as we watch that, we'll continue to talk to our jurisdictions to make sure that any internet service provider or jurisdiction that would like to go after those funds, that we've done what we can to enable them to be successful in a potential application. The Digital Equity Subcommittee is looking at information from organizations across both counties that work with covered populations, because what we really found when we looked at the internet data is that while internet may be accessible, meaning fiber or wireless might be there, there are multiple barriers that exist to people actually having accessibility to that internet, whether it's owning a computer, language barriers, costs, just general computer knowledge. And so we want to explore who is serving those populations and how can we improve the level of access. Because if we learned one thing through the COVID pandemic is that those that had access to the internet were able to be more economically resilient through those times. So we want to help encourage that. The Regional Chamber of Commerce, TriDec, and Visit Tri-Cities, along with BFCOG, have joined together in a partnership called the Tri-Cities Strategic Alliance. And what we are doing, we've not formed a formal entity, but a loose collaborative partnership with really just the intention to say, we want to work together on large-scale regional projects that no organization can actually take on their own. And so to start that process and really be intentional about it, we've each selected one large-scale regional project to work on under this new partnership. For the Council of Governments, it is that idea of internet for all. So we're combining that with our work with the broadband action teams to facilitate the connection between private internet service providers, community organizations, municipalities, and other resources to enable all of the citizens of Benton and Franklin County to have the availability and the accessibility of internet service. As I mentioned, the Brownfield Coalition Assessment Grant, we will be reapplying for a renewed grant through the EPA during 2024. Our original $600,000 is almost completely spent. So the hope is by 2025, we would have that funding renewed to continue that service. Also, under our Economic Development District, we are forming a new advisory committee. That group will work as the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, advisory committee. That's the primary planning document that we do for economic development. That really looks at what are the industries, drivers, projects, and infrastructure that help drive our community. And that group will also make recommendations to our board about future economic development activities. So for example, our now defederalized loan funds, what would we do with those? This advisory committee will be providing that information. We did also apply for a securing federal funding grant from the Department of Commerce that we're still waiting to hear on. And our intention was to hire a grant writer on staff for the COG to help support grant application efforts for our jurisdictions. Many of them have contracted with outside grant writers or don't have a staff person on staff to do that. And as you've seen just with the list of grant opportunities that you were presented right before I started, there is money available, but someone has to be able to do that work. And so we want to be able to try and help and provide some support there. So as soon as we find out if we received grant money to help other people receive grant money, we will let you all know. I do have two questions for you that I don't expect answers off the top of your head, but I want you to just kind of think about. As a Council of Governments, we do have the ability to be a tool to help two or more jurisdictions partner together on a project that provides support to them. So multi-jurisdictional programs, and our role is also to provide a forum to discuss issues of mutual concern when we look at the region. So for the issues of mutual concern, my question for you would be, what regional issue of mutual concern would you want to discuss with your fellow jurisdictions? Is there something that comes top of mind for your council that you know is an issue for other jurisdictions that might be valuable for us to be discussing at a regional level? Perhaps there is a shared solution that could be provided.
Well, I sat on the PAC committee for a while before it was disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
And under that.
Okay, I'll work on it, no problem. Bring it up. I said, well, yeah, but I said I ain't got a rig big enough to bring me a suitcase and my dog at the same time.
Somebody's mic is unmuted somehow there.
No.
Yeah. I hear you. It's just, I don't know.
Could you mute yourself?
I don't know if I could probably handle about an hour, maybe 2 hours of sunny. Aside from that, I'm not too sure.
Well, he doesn't like to talk a lot. Like this.
Dan, please mute yourself.
Dan, mute.
3 o'clock to get her to a doctor's appointment. So I know I got up at 4, and like I always do. And I took my clothes out and I got dressed out in the living room.
Can't you mute him?
He's on user. I don't know what he's doing. There he goes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry about
Now
that.
we're back.
I was gonna say, go back in the waiting room.
So,
That's right, it's just like home.
so I was on that, and I'm also heavily involved in trying to solve our own issues locally. And I sit on the transit board and all that stuff, so I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on. One of the things that we need to do, though, is start looking at some of the idea of routing traffic around the Tri-Cities. I know it was discussed in the PAC years ago about coming across the top end of Franklin County and a second bridge and coming back around and either through West Richland or Benton City with a tie or a bypass. I think that's something we really need to be looking at. We've got a south end bypass down 397. It's not perfect, but it's okay. But for the folks coming this way, we need to send truck traffic and such around. I know Atlas Agro is building a huge fertilizer plant in North Richland. That would help them get into Franklin County, into the agricultural areas. It would also help them get up the valley into the agricultural areas without having to come into the middle of town. I think that's something that really needs to be discussed at the metropolitan planning level. That would be something I think is brought up, but there you go.
One of the reasons I asked the question, and this one and the next one, is also to plant the seed for thinking about the Council of Governments for conversations that are beyond transportation. And I think that for a lot of years, that's really what we've been thought of most specifically. But if you look at councils of governments in neighboring communities, for example, the kinds of programs that they work on and administer, or the conversations that are being hosted, might not have anything to do with transportation, and maybe it's some other regional level issue. And as our organization, we've just not really done a lot of that. So I want to make sure that our jurisdictions are thinking about the COG as the potential to be a tool to provide solutions that might not have anything to do with transportation, for example. So the second question similarly would be that multi-jurisdictional programs. How could the COG be utilized to help our local governments collaborate to reduce duplication of efforts, or save money, or launch a program or service that any individual jurisdiction might not be able to justify doing on their own? We are doing that as your economic development district, or as your MPO. Theoretically, there's no reason why the COG couldn't also do that for something completely different. Council of Government that I worked with in Idaho before I came to Tri-Cities, for example, hosted their area office on aging, and another one ran infrastructure funding programs for jurisdictions. Yakima, for example, their new crime lab that they did on behalf of the county under the COG. So sky's the limit as far as what that could look like. But the first question is just having our jurisdictions be thinking about that, hey, we may be a tool or a resource to achieve something that hadn't really been thought of before.
And I know, because I attended the rehab recovery breakfast the other day, and I think that was something to see that was really impressive. All the communities coming together for a great cause. I know there's still some work that needs to be done, but it was awesome to see that, because I know it's something across every city in our community. We're faced against some of those rehab issues, and I think this is a great facility. So I think seeing that and seeing all the communities come together for one cause was pretty cool. So I don't know if there's something in there. I know that funding has been tricky for them, but definitely, like I said, I think that's something that spreads across every community, is having a rehab center.
That did actually remind me that as Benton and Franklin counties are also working on the old Kennewick General Hospital as a location for programs like that. We've been leveraging that brownfields program to help them with assessments on that old facility and actually do some site-specific planning to help support their efforts. So sometimes we can bring to bear some resources that might not seem that they necessarily connect, but to try and move some of those programs forward. But I have taken enough of your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to just give you an update of the kinds of things we work on. We are one of those entities that we're kind of in the background. So every once in a while, we like to raise our head up and just say, we're here, we're working for you. If you need us, let us know. It's great for us to be able to have conversations with folks like George and just make sure that we're being that service provider that you need us to be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Right.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your meeting last week. We have no public hearings tonight. Items for council approval. First item is resolution 2024-18 iWork service agreement. And did you want to take that on, Corey, or do you want me to take it on?
Well, you can read what was put in the packet. I kind of gave a rundown of what it was. It will allow us to actually bill out. We can set it up so whoever's entering information can't go any further until they put their time in or what cost was incurred. And then where we're missing it now, where it's not being done, this should alleviate that problem and we can actually get some billing out and recoup some funds that we've been expending on behalf of people.
This will, so you understand, this will automate building permits. So the individual applying will apply on the line. It will collect all the fees, assign them to the appropriate accounts. It will also give us the ability to collect the fees and ensure the fees are being collected that are already in our schedule we have not been collecting. It gives us tracking ability. We know where each building permit is at, who has it, and what's going on, and staff can check it immediately. And it also tightens up with Canada's new billing and what we're doing. It also tightens up the collection of fees that were a lot of the times just eating rather than collecting from developers or builders.
Carla, my question would be for the cost $3,000. Is it a one-time fee or is it
It's the first year.
Okay.
After that,
After that, it's supposed to be $6,000 a year.
$6,000 a year, but with what you're saving in actually getting things billed out to the contractors, we'll make that up within a couple projects. We can track it where it starts. They can go online, fill out the application, pay their fees. It automatically deposits into our account. We can run reports to get that. And as it goes through each step, each person has to check off that everything is done. It's going to save time. We're not going to lose permits or where they're at, so we can track them. Alan and Nathan would be able to get into it to do, if they had to do a plan review, they can get into it and look at all the information. Everything is kept in one place because everything has to be downloaded into that system. We can archive it and keep it. So we're not searching who knows where for a piece of paper that you really and truly have no idea where it would be.
The other advantage of it eliminates the staff time in the office to take a permit. It comes in online. They don't have to interface. They have to kick it back to the applicant. It kicks right back to the applicant.
all right? If no further questions, I move to approve authorization for the mayor to sign the iWork service agreement for the community development enterprise package upgrade.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia.
Great eye.
Alcazar, aye.
Motion passes. Next resolution. Resolution for memorandum of understanding with SC Planning Development LLC for the land purchase. This ties into the grant that Nathan discussed earlier.
Move to approve resolution 2024-2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with S&C Planning and Development LLC for the purchase of land for use for an athletic facility.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia,
Reed, aye.
Alcazar, I.
Motion passes. Resolution 2024-23, grant application for installation of outdoor lighting at boat launch park.
Move to approve resolution 2024-23, the WCIA grant approval for the boat launch park outdoor lighting.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia,
Reed, aye.
Alcazar, I.
Motion passes.
See, that's-
Resolution
always off.
2024-24, grant application for acquisition of property for the development of an athletic facility.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute and submit to the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office a grant application for acquisition of property for the development of an athletic facility.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, I.
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia,
Reed, aye.
Alcazar, I.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1061, this is an update of section 15 of our code for our floodplain ordinance.
talk about that.
You want to talk about it?
Man, I'm on
You're
the
having issues.
microwave or
Microphone.
microphone, whatever you want to
I
call it.
thought you were gonna have Sherry come and talk.
All this new technologies, you know, they only invented this 100 years ago. Yeah, so the here's what I know about the floodplain. I know that it's gone around the horn quite a few times here. It's gone back and forth, I think, between the city staff and ecology, our office, Dan and our office. So it's been highly reviewed. I took a glance through it as quick as I could with it being 40-something pages. But at this point, it's been reviewed, and it's something that apparently the mayor keeps getting calls on a daily basis from Department of Ecology asking for it to be implemented. So that's what I know about it, and happy to take a further look at something if people have questions about it. Fortunate thing is we've got a couple of readings because it's an ordinance. So if there's something that sticks out, I'm happy to go back and do some digging.
Motion to approve ordinance 1061, no ordinance. What?
I was gonna question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No, go
you.
ahead.
In looking at our current map and then looking at this new map, it looks to me like a lot more buildings and homes are now in flood zone area that weren't before. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's correct.
Okay, and so what happens to the people that are living in those homes? Are they gonna have to go out and get flood insurance? Is it gonna be a challenge for them to get flood insurance?
It's going to have an
How-
impact. I can't answer that, but it is going to have an impact.
Hey, maybe we'll buy my house. Cause in looking at that was, I looked at that and I see a lot more area that is now orange that was not
Yeah.
before.
That is based on a river flow of 54,100 cubic feet per second. To give you an idea, if you drove over the Vernita Bridge in July and looked down at the river towards the end of July, that would be about the amount of water flowing underneath the Vernita Bridge that this floodplain is based on. And it's based on the historical data. They've flown planes, special planes over the community with special laser sensors that mapped all the houses, all the elevations. This is impacted all the cities, Prosser, Benton City, West Richland, and Richland. And of all the communities, so Benton City is the most impacted of any community.
Okay, so we're just motioning to approve that that's the new floodplains and that's where we're at.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was gonna say, there's time for us to go through this further, right? I mean, this is just the first phase, so there's time to have discussions moving forward,
Yes,
right?
We have to have a second hearing.
yeah, we have to have a second reading, so yeah, there's time between now and then, it's dense, but.
So what map are you looking at?
I'm looking at the city map and then I'm looking at the one that came in the email, the link. I clicked on the
I
link and
sent
I'm looking
everybody
at
an
that.
email with the new layout. And really, the gun is against our head on this, is one of the challenges. Department of Ecology was insistent on things we incorporated in this ordinance. And like Eric said, they've been calling me frequently to make certain that we're getting this passed and approved.
So the reason I'm questioning this too also is because I was under the impression that there had been, and you can probably answer this, there had been canals or something dug to mitigate the floodplain, to change things so they wouldn't be as bad. And now I'm looking, I'm like, how are we gonna tell all these people that all of a sudden they're in floodplain area?
We're probably
That's
gonna
what I
have
was-
a community workshop and discuss this. I don't have another answer. George?
There's a couple of comments
Yeah.
about that.
That's a lot.
Understanding.
A lot more.
What you have before you, excuse me, George Kress, city planner. What you have before you is an update to, there's a chapter 15, the floodplain prevention. And it's a requirement as part of our periodic review. Now, the maps, the new maps are done by FEMA, as well as the Army Corps. That is going to be implemented sometime down the road. But right now, with our current mapping, this ordinance change will be part of that implementation. Now, you're still can live in those homes. If you wish to expand your footprint, you will have to get a certificate for elevation to show where you are and exactly with the floodplain. Because those maps could be off a little bit. And this will give an opportunity, if you do wish to expand or build a new home in the 100-year floodplain, you can still do that, but you have to be at a certain elevation. Now, and this little bit more background of what we've been doing here with this update is that this is a mandate by the Department of Ecology. They have reviewed it now twice. So they have their comments that are as part of this review. After the Planning Commission has had 2 workshops on it, as well as a public hearing, and recommended to come to this body. The only other group that needs to see it after the city approves it is the Department of Commerce. So that's a little bit of background to that. But you can still stay in your same home or a manufactured home or whatever. But if you're going to expand, or say your house burns down, or is damaged, what they say severe, what's the term by FEMA, is significant damage over a certain percent. Now, if we don't do this and it floods, FEMA will not reimburse. So this is a requirement of FEMA to do this.
Okay.
As way as background. I just like to make one other comment in regards to flooding, and I went through it in Pendleton, where everybody says it doesn't flood, it did. And this gentleman brought up a great idea about just not flooding, but other natural hazards. In the time of that, and it always happens in the middle of the night, communications is very important. And the radio is really important. So if you did talk to the county Department of Emergency Management, I don't know if you've been in touch with them, that should be on their goals or objectives, is for communications, and what you brought up, I think, is very, very important.
So, have to be looking. Okay,
I think there's still some work to be done, but I think moving ahead, at least with this, I think it's a right step in the direction that we need to go. And so I move to approve ordinance 1061, an ordinance approving the floodplain.
Second.
All in favor?
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Valencia.
Great eye.
Alcazar, aye.
Motion passes.
I have workshop on it.
We have any unfinished business? Any new business?
I just want to take a moment. I attended TriDeck, their big thing, the other week I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, along with the rehab center. So there's a lot of great things coming to Benton and Franklin counties. That's going to be wonderful for our communities, along with, some great jobs and industries that are coming. So I really appreciate attending both of those, activities or events, I should say.
Thank you. Thank you. There are no further business. We will adjourn this portion of our council meeting and return to executive council meeting and call back to order city council meeting, March 5th, 2024. Is there any additional business?
I appreciate our staff.
I do too, trust me. I appreciate everybody on the council.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in
Second.
favor?
Sandra, do I?
Wadsworth, aye.
Oh, Valencia.
Great eye.
Alcazar, aye.
Motion approved. Adjourned council meeting.